how you doing? It's Scott Penfold here with you for another edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. And coming up on this show this week, I'm going to be talking to BLOTHAR the Berserker, frontman for GWAR. Yes, I guess you could call him the new frontman, the man who took the place of the late Dave Brockie, Odorous Arungus. His real name is Michael Bishop, but we'll be talking about the new GWAR album, The New Dark Ages, which arrives on June 3rd on CD and digital. And then on September the 16th, it drops on vinyl and cassette via GWAR's own label, Pit Records. So this is going to be awesome, man. I am hyped to talk with BLOTHAR. And then coming up after that, as always, in the second portion of the podcast, I'll be joined by Loaded Radio's own Johnny Rude. He joins us live from Las Vegas, Nevada, where we're going to be talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and their upcoming induction of Judas Priest into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame via the Musical Excellence Award. It's the second time that the award has been given out. The first time was back in 2014 to the E Street Band. So we'll be talking about that, and as well, you know, the returning KK Downing and Les Binks to the band for the ceremony. Definitely going to be a lot to talk about there with Johnny Rude. So stick around for that after we talk to this guy here. What do I call him? A guy, a gentleman, a creature, certainly an epic frontman. I'm talking, of course, about BLOTHAR the Berserker, frontman for GWAR. BLOTHAR, it's great to have you here on the Loaded Radio podcast this week.
Why, hello.
How are things? Obviously, we have the new album. I want to get into that. But first off, how are things with you? How have you been through the pandemic and all that?
Well, you know, we've been fine. We've been down here in the band GWAR has been in Richmond.
Yeah.
And working on video stuff and doing all that kind of things. I mean, we actually did a lot during the pandemic. Got a lot done.
Yeah.
Especially on the, I mean, we wrote an album. We got new management, did all kinds of things. And then, you know, but of course we were dying to get out and play shows. We also did a graphic novel, which was useful.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. But, you know, now we're getting out more. I mean, I've been in Sarasota, Florida, where I live, just sweating like a pig.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, you know what? The new album, The New Dark Ages, I got to tell you, BLOTHAR, when I put it on and I heard it, I'm telling you, it took me right back to Scumdogs. It's a beautiful, beautiful GWAR album, man. I think it's great.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, was it an intentional thing to really recapture that early GWAR sound for this album?
I think partly it was. You know, we knew that we needed to do something different than Blood of Gods, and Blood of Gods was sort of the whole record was really a tribute to Odorous and answering the question, really, you know, how do we move on here? And then this album is more of, you know, just we're a lot freer to do something that we wanted to do and sound the way that we wanted to sound and say what we wanted to say. And so, you know, it really is the band sort of moving on to a next phase. And so in that sense, it's looking forward. But yes, I mean, with me playing bass and writing a lot of songs with the original, you know, sort of lineup from Scumdogs of Jizmac and Ballsack.
Yeah.
You know, it's got a lot of those characteristics. It's certainly broad, like GWAR albums were in the 90s. You know, There's a lot of different stuff going on.
Well, personally, I love the concept and the story of the whole Duoverse thing. Tell me about Berserker Mode, though. I wanted to ask you about that.
Well, you know, I mean, BLOTHAR needed a song that kind of explained what he was about, you know. I mean, I like to talk about myself in the third person because That's what important people like Kanye do. Yeah. So, you know, I needed something that really established who BLOTHAR is. And we had done Viking Death Machine on the last record, but I wanted this one to be, you know, more of a sort of BLOTHAR telling something of his story. And, you know, it's funny because on the next tour, we're introducing My Shield, which actually is going to talk and have a personality of its own.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Kind of like, I don't know if you remember the old Flintstones.
Yeah.
The Great Gazoo.
Yes.
That's what the shield is like.
Oh, that's going to be awesome, man.
Yeah.
Also, I really wanted to ask you about the Cutter. How did you get Lzzy Hale? How did she come to enter the universe that is GWAR?
Well, Lzzy is managed by the same company that manages GWAR, Inducted. And we had actually reached out to her to do one of our podcasts that we do.
Yeah.
And she just, is one of those people that you meet that turns out to be, as far as humans go, a pretty daggone good one. She's, she's very talented, and she's very sweet, and she's very approachable, and really our kind of people. And, GWAR's kind of people. That's saying a lot.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, because GWAR, when you scratch that surface, you got a bunch of comic book geeks and science fiction nerds. And, we're not like swinging dicks with Slayer or anything backstage, hanging around with Halloween, like,
right.
I mean, that's just not who GWAR is. I mean, we're not, and Lzzy she's a person. She's an ordinary person. And, so we asked her to do it, and we thought that she would be perfect. We wanted to have a voice, because it's a difficult subject matter, that song.
It is.
And we didn't really want to do it and have it just be like, a bunch of aliens from outer space talking about this. We thought it would be useful to have the voice of the Cutter on the record and Lzzy does a good job of occupying that space. So
yeah,
great.
She certainly does. And you're totally right. Every time I've talked with Lzzy, she's one of the greatest people, and just love talking to her too. So talented too.
Yes. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Now, it's been 8 years since the passing of Oderus Urungus. And I mean, when you're in the studio, we're making these new albums, is his presence still felt in a certain way in the studio and even on stage?
Well, absolutely. I mean, anytime you do anything with GWAR, you're feeling Oderus.
Yeah.
He really protrudes a lot. Right. And that's why, on the first tour, it was so funny because the cuttlefish that he had made an appearance through the cosmic glory hole. Yeah. Oderus is always going to be a part of GWAR. There's no two ways about it. So yes, we absolutely feel him on the, in the process of writing. We definitely feel the absence of him.
Yeah. I'm sure.
And it makes things, it's a different sort of project now. It's like for good or for bad. Things have changed a lot. So, yes, we're always aware of Oderus. And when we play live, I think you asked that, who wouldn't love to have him back up there? What fans need to realize is that there's nobody in this band that wouldn't love to have Oderus back.
Absolutely, man. Now, after his passing, was there a question at the time of whether GWAR would continue?
Absolutely. There was, it was not a given. I think had it have been anyone else, it might not have been a question, but losing Oderus was a very big blow for the band, and trying to imagine what the band would be like without him moving forward was difficult. Now, it was easier for us because we remember a time when Oderus was not the singer for GWAR, right?
Right.
But the fans, they don't really have the same perspective on things that we do. We know that there were at least three, maybe two at least two singers before Oderus.
Yeah.
And, and GWAR has always been an ensemble thing, something that was done, an achievement of an art collective. And no one person really is responsible for that. And that's why the band was able to keep going, I think. But,
well, you were the original Beefcake. And I like how that whole shift happened, and you even took a 20-year absence and came back. And I think that's really cool that you did come back and you took on a whole new persona and you ran with that, and it was still part of that whole GWAR momentum. I think that's so great, man.
Well, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Beefcake suffered mitosis, cellular mitosis. He split into half.
Yeah.
I always say he's my child. He's Blothar's child.
Right.
So that was interesting.
Well, one thing GWAR is certainly known for is, the overt sexual and over the top violence. Why is that so important, do you think, to GWAR?
Well, judging by the response to the single that we just had, it's the most salient feature of GWAR. But I would argue that it's not, right. I mean, it is part of what GWAR has done, and it will always be a part of what GWAR has done. But it's also not what GWAR has. GWAR doesn't always do that, right? Like there are other things that we do and that we say. But certainly from the beginning, GWAR, having been very influenced by American culture, and American culture is simply very bound up in sex and death, and that I think is reflected by the band. So, I mean, that's sort of the best explanation I have for it, other than the fact that also, the influence that we have of comedy and novelty songs. All of these are things that GWAR are interested in, and the science fiction element, and the underground comics element. I mean, if I had to say that, it's not like GWAR was really drawing on Marvel comics. I mean, certainly influenced by people like artists like Jack Kirby, and
of course,
but as far as the comic world, right? GWAR was really a product of that sort of marriage of punk rock and underground comics, that started in the 60s. And that really is a big part of our image. And those stuff that, R. Crumb, S. Clay Wilson, that stuff was always very engaged, like the old Zap comics, with sexuality and with perversity, and so I think that's some of where that comes from.
Well, I remember when Hello first came out and I first experienced you guys. I was pretty young at the time, and honestly, you guys made me shit my pants. You really did. And then of course when Scumdogs came out, I was in high school by that point, and it was essentially the soundtrack to my grade 9, and it was such an important album to me. And it was great when I would discuss the album with my friends, because it meant something different to each person. You know what I mean? Which is the coolness of GWAR.
Yes, I've noticed that. It does mean, and I think that's the business of art, is providing something that, I mean, we're only really responsible for half of the meaning,
Yeah.
It's really what people bring to it and what they take away from it that is the other half of that. So, I'm glad that it was important for you, and that your mother had to change your drawers. That's
she did.
The highest compliment.
Oh, of course, that's what it was meant to be, man. Now, why do you think there's been so many personnel changes within GWAR?
Well, I mean, there's not very much like GWAR in the world. Believe me, I've looked. There really isn't a lot of art collectives that also make music, and people who have been involved in one sort of musical project for a really long time, with so many people that are a part of it. And it's a difficult thing to be a part of in some ways. But to more directly answer your question, I think that it being such a broad project, I mean, it requires a lot of people, and the people, interestingly, I mean, there's a lot of people who are all, young artists that are like, well, we want to be a part of GWAR.
Yeah.
It's like, you probably don't, right? Like, once they realize like the amount of sacrifice that's involved, it's got to be the most difficult band to be in.
I mean, the heat alone on stage. I mean,
yeah. I mean, getting dressed in trucks and, it's not an easy thing to do. And, so, I mean, from the musical standpoint, there's that. And then, on the art side, it's really defined by work and humble rewards. I mean, GWAR is sort of a glory gig. I mean, there's not a lot of, or at least up to this point, there hasn't been a ton of, it's not like everybody in the band is super rich or anything. We're getting by, doing well. But, so I think that makes it, people have to step out at different points because they have lives that they want to lead. And, but the main focus of it, the thrust of it has always been, like I said, able to survive these changes in lineup because there's so many people.
Yeah. But looking ahead, obviously, with the new album coming out, the new Dark Ages and the tour dates, what else is on the horizon for GWAR?
Well, the graphic novel that's coming out is a big thing. And then there's a documentary that's coming out.
Oh, cool.
It's already had some limited release or some early showings. And it's really, I'm not at liberty to say what's going to happen with it, but there are some exciting things that are happening with it as far as the distribution of it and where people will be able to watch it. And that documentary is, it's a fine piece of work. I mean, it really does explain a lot of GWAR and the dynamics of GWAR, and the ways that it is an exceptional project. So we're really excited about that documentary.
Wow. Will that be seeing the light of day in 2022 this year?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it has the unfortunate title of This is GWAR. That's what, and I only say unfortunate because the other day I picked up my telephone and it was Jello Biafra. Yeah. And he was there to say, you've got to change the title of that documentary. I don't know. I don't know.
I can't wait to see it, man. That's going to be great. I cannot thank you enough, Michael, for your time today, man. This is a big notch on my bedpost for me, dude. So thank you so much.
Cool. All right.
All the best to you.
All right. You too.
Take care.
Bye.
There he is. That's Blothar the Berserker, frontman from GWAR. Yes, and again, the new album, The New Dark Ages, drops June the 3rd on CD and digital, and then on September 16th on vinyl and cassette via GWAR's own label, Pit Records. Now, it's Scott Penfold here with you for the Loaded Radio podcast. The second portion now about to begin, where I'm going to bring on Johnny Rude. He joins us live from Las Vegas, Nevada, where we're going to be talking about Judas Priest finally getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Johnny, what's going on, buddy?
More yellow.
I really wanted to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with you this week, dude, because I mean, the whole Judas Priest thing is kind of, it's good news, but it's also kind of, I think, of an indirect slap in the face to metal as a whole. Now, first off, I want to ask, what are your thoughts on Judas Priest being finally inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? By the way, they're not getting the normal induction, as you know. They're getting the Musical Excellence Award at this year's ceremony, John. So they're not part of the people being inducted or the artists being inducted this year. Who is being inducted? I mean, you got like Eminem, you've got Carly Simon, Dolly Parton, Duran Duran. And I mean, when it comes to actual rock, I think Judas Priest would be the only one that stands up, but they're getting the Musical Excellence Award, the second band ever to get it. The first being the E Street Band, who in 2014 they got it. The award for musical excellence is given to artists, musicians, and songwriters and producers whose originality and influence have had a dramatic impact on music, John. So that's what they sort of gave Judas Priest when it's at this point. What are your thoughts on Priest getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, not knowing fully how it all goes down, because it's all behind the scenes sort of stuff. You named a bunch of artists just before we talked about Judas Priest. And from what I understand, outside of maybe Dolly Parton, I mean, Priest has been around longer, or maybe even longer than Dolly Parton for that matter. I think the Dolly Parton thing is cool because she actually renounced it. She didn't want this accolade. So, she thought about it. Maybe some people expressed, what it means, and she's accepted it. So I think that is cool. The farthest thing from rock and roll is Dolly Parton, but man, she's written some great songs in that genre that she's in. But you said Eminem and Duran Duran, again, all cool stuff, big sellers, but to use the word Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, again, we all know this award is it's a made up, made up event. But Judas Priest, it's like all those other bands that, in my opinion, formed what hard rock, heavy metal is today. These are the pioneers. And what I'm understanding, are you saying are they going to be inductees? Are they going to accept an award, or it's like they're not invited and we're giving you the excellence award?
That's it. They're like, well, you didn't get, the full nomination, but we're going to give you the excellence award. And the reason I think that they did that is when you look at the voting and the polls, I mean, I think Priest didn't even make the top 5, dude. Rage Against the Machine didn't even make the top 5, but Carly Simon and Eminem are being inducted this year. So, I mean, at this point, I think it is just a given to get rid of the rock and roll out of the name Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And again, that's not a thing against the artists, but I mean, the fact that Carly Simon would be inducted before Rage Against the Machine, I just have a problem with that.
Well, here's the thing too. If this was 1975, when she was huge back then, writing whatever songs, You're So Vain, that would make sense. But this is 2022. No one knows who the hell she is.
No,
she's played on those MOR stations or, listening to 70s music. There's no current value in that. And again, a great artist, great singer, not taking anything away from her. But Rage Against the Machine has been popular for the past maybe 25 years.
30 years now.
Yeah. Rage Against the Machine has been around for 30 years, sold tons of records, and is current and is in the rock and roll vein, whatever you want to put them in, but they're more suiting, again, not taking anything away from Carly Simon. But I think it's these people behind the scenes that are pulling the strings, no matter who votes, no matter how many things come in. I guarantee you Rage Against the Machine or Priest got more votes than Carly Simon. Who's calling in for Carly Simon? Who's signing a ballot for Carly Simon?
You know what? I don't know, man. I really don't. I mean, is it past people who've been, I guess,
I don't know,
inducted? Because to me, that wouldn't make sense either.
No. I think, can you vote? Can I vote? Who can vote?
Well, the fan vote. Yeah, there is a fan vote.
There's a fan vote. Okay, so let's be honest here, man. People who are into Carly Simon don't even know how to work a cell phone. So how are they going to vote? That's what I'm saying here. And your favorite band. I mean, I could see, even Duran Duran. I mean, a lot of kids like that band in from 82 to 86, 87. You were, 13-year-old girls, but they're still playing. And if you go see Duran Duran, they're sold out, but they're not playing huge arenas. They come to Vegas and they play at the Aria, one of the showrooms in there, and it does sell out. But I can't see those 13-year-old girls, filling up ballot boxes or whoever. Again, I get it. Duran Duran was a huge band in the 80s and they're still kicking. Carly Simon was a huge artist in the 70s, wrote some great songs. They should maybe let you know how this is happening. Same with Dolly Parton. Huge, dude. She has sold and written songs for so many people. Yeah. So it makes sense on that level. Judas Priest, just again, if you're using the Excellence Award, absolutely, they've been around. They're the 4 founding fathers of British heavy metal, of heavy metal, hard rock in general. Yeah. Again, I think they deserve to be there because it's a big deal. That is a big deal.
It is a big deal. And I think that for the fact that it is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they certainly belong there. I think they belonged there way before Carly Simon. I think they belonged there when they were first able to be inducted. Like they would have been able to be inducted. We're talking like late 90s, early 20s or early 2000s.
Is that how it works? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Right. And now the members of Priest to be inducted, who they're going to induct, they're not going to be inducting every single person. The people that are going to be inducted with Priest, current members, Rob Halford,
Right.
Ian Hill, Glenn Tipton, and Scott Travis, along with former members KK Downing, Les
Dave
Banks,
Holland. Yes, that's right.
Dave Holland.
If you watch the US Festival, I think that's the original lineup right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a good thing they're certainly being inducted. Again, I respect Dolly Parton as an artist. I think she's incredible, and she belongs in the Country Music Hall of Fame, where she already is.
Right.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't know. For me, I guess maybe I'm just an old stickler. Maybe I'm just an old man standing on his porch yelling at the kids. But for me, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be rock and roll. I mean, maybe am I being out of line by saying that?
No, it's the connotation with the name. That's where it wavers. It falls sort of flat. You got Judas Priest and you got Carly Simon and Dolly Parton and Rage Against the Machine. They are two different animals. Mm-hmm. To be accepted in the Music Hall of Fame, that's fantastic. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I know why it was invented. I watched it being built back in the mid 80s. And I thought it was cool. Again, just a weird award, but I thought initially it was going to be a place where you could go and see cool rock and roll memorabilia from all over the planet. Then they devised this award show and I thought, oh, cool. And I think the first artists were like the Beatles and Elvis and stuff like that, rock and roll. But it's transcended into something different. And I think I've heard this. Should be called the Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But again, it's like you and I, we are taking this maybe too literal. Rock and roll. We're sticking by our guns, like you said. Hey, get off of my lawn, sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Get out of my genre. But it is what it is. But do you think Judas Priest will get inducted into the Country Hall of Fame or Rage? Of course,
no way in hell.
No, of course not. But again, that's just how we're perceiving this, and we know they're not a country artist. But is Dolly Parton a rock and roll artist? No, not at all.
Well, this is the CEO of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Of course it is.
He said he mentioned that he thinks that Eminem's hip hop or rap packs just as powerful a punch as heavy metal, is what he says. Well,
I understand what he's saying. If you talk to some kid who's into Eminem, mm-hmm. I absolutely get it. I don't see it. It's not my thing. I know it's not your thing. But isn't there a hip hop Hall of Fame thing or a rap Hall of Fame? I think they were talking about that, or an R&B. I mean, that's more in that genre. That to me, again, it's not the rock and roll. It should be called the Music Hall of Fame.
Just change the name. Change the name, please.
Change the name.
But leaving that aside, though, getting back to actually Judas Priest, I mean, KK Downing has said that he is open to performing, and Rob Halford has said that he is very open to KK Downing and even Les Binks rejoining the band to perform live, which is very cool news for a lot of fans of that classic.
So hang on. So they are performing live at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, that's what the talk is at this point. At this point, from all we know, is that KK Downing has said if they perform live, he would like to, but a lot could happen between now and then. Rob Halford says, yes, KK is more than welcome. So is Les Binks, to get everybody up there we can put our feelings aside and represent Judas Priest. Even Tim Ripper Owens, who's in KK's Priest with KK Downing, he said he would love to see KK get back into Judas Priest after this performance. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on KK playing with Priest again?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know exactly what happened, what went down. I thought again, I might be wrong on this. I thought he left sort of, he threw in the towel, the age thing. And I don't know if there was a medical thing thrown in there as well. But
there was a bit of bitterness, I think, there, and there was some resentment, and there was some monetary stuff, like that kind of thing. They are going to be there, and they are being inducted. It's an induction, but they're not part of the usual inductees, is what I meant. They're not part of the five. They usually have like the five artists. They made a special award for them called the Musical Excellence Award, which they only gave it once before in 2014 to the E Street Band. So they brought it back for Priest this year, because I think that when you look at the five artists being inducted, none of them are really rock and roll artists. So I think that what they did is they kind of got sweated, and they pulled out the Musical Excellence Award and said, we got to give it to Judas Priest to have that representation there, because we're pretty much standing on fucking very, 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 delicate eggshells here.
Sure. I understand that. Yes, I understand that. I see what you're saying. It's the five that are being inducted that are the farthest thing from rock and roll. So you're saying now it's Judas Priest is the closest thing to rock, but they didn't get up to the five that are the inductees.
Exactly. That's what's
I get
going on.
It. Well, if they get to play, dude, and they get to accept some excellence award, I think that's pretty cool. But if it comes down to voting, I still don't see how Carly Simon's getting all these votes. But I don't know. I don't know how the voting is tabulated.
They have like I guess they all have like an academy, or they have like a board, or they have like whatever, so.
Yeah. Whoever these people are. I mean,
bunch of Carly Simon fans, apparently.
Obviously, it's older people, Scott. I would say, it's they're from that era.
But I mean, I think I'd love to see KK Downing up there playing with Judas Priest and even Les Binks.
Yeah, coming back to that, I think you might be able to play it 2 tunes. I remember seeing Heart, and they had the original lineup of Heart. I think it's Robert Drozier, the drummer, great drummer, man. Yeah. But it was great to see all of them up there. And I think he played one of the songs. I think they got to play 2. So yeah, it would be killer if you saw KK and Les Binks and the band. That would be awesome to see, man. But KK in it? Yes.
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah. I mean, and of course, Glenn Tipton, I mean, he's in rough shape.
I know.
He has been suffering with Parkinson's disease. He still comes out and plays the encores at Judas Priest shows. Yeah. He plays Breaking the Law and stuff. So, I mean, I of course, I could see him doing the performance there as well. Why wouldn't he? It's a big performance. That's a big show, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's about time. I mean, but in my opinion, I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has no respect for heavy metal whatsoever. I think the stigma is disgusting. You'll never see Pantera in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You just won't.
Yeah. Well,
which is unfortunate, dude. You know what I mean? Who's in there now? Black Sabbath, Metallica, and Judas Priest. Name another metal artist in there.
Well, metal, no, but I mean, you'd go Alice Cooper.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, there are.
I'll give you that one.
Yeah. It's not Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden?
No,
not yet.
Nope.
Well, okay. Guns N' Roses?
Guns N' Roses were inducted. Yes.
Okay.
They were inducted. Again, if you want to classify them as metal, okay. You can.
Well, yeah, but you're saying metal. A metal does not get its fair share of anything. And if you talk about sold out tours and shows and consistency, it's metal. These shows are all the time. But no, it doesn't get any ribbons or anything like that, man, for being, looked upon as something like, hey, this is great. Absolutely not. It's always been the dark horse, metal, and maybe it's a good thing, but it's not your parents' favorite stuff. But is it worthy of getting into something? Absolutely, man.
Damn right. That's some of the best musicianship out there. First off,
yeah, it is. And again, not to go on the other side here. I was watching the football draft it was the NBA draft of young new players. And I mean, I'm going out on a limb here, but they asked, who's your favorite band? And it was like, or who's your favorite artist? And it was Little Baby and Drake and all this stuff. And I know why. That's what they're into, but 20 years ago or whatever, you'd hear Guns N' Roses, Van Halen, Iron Maiden, Metallica. I mean, it's just so different. It was different to hear that. I just sat there and went, wow, I don't know who the hell these people are, but they're big to them is what I was getting at.
Yeah, well, hip hop does dominate the music scene these days, but metal's not going anywhere.
No. It's not going on anywhere. And like you said, there's no respect in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's going to be, like I said, the Alice Coopers, the Guns N' Roses, the Rolling Stones, bands of that nature that are going to be accepted more than, say, the Iron Maidens or the Judas Priest. Is Black Sabbath is in? Is Ozzy in separately?
No, he's not. Black Sabbath.
He's just part of the Black Sabbath camp.
Yeah.
So again, that would be something. If that didn't happen, I mean, people would say, "What's going on? This is really bad." So, well, yeah, we heavy metal does not get its fair shake on anything, buddy, but it still happens. You see all these tours, Slipknot, all these guys are out there doing.
And the biggest tours, some of the biggest tours out there, man. Metallica, Slipknot, when they come to town, dude, it's a big event.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. Especially when Carly Simon comes to town. It's a massive event.
You see what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense.
I know, buddy. I know. But metal will never get its fair shake on anything, dude. So just it's up to you and I and people like us to keep playing it and pushing it and digging it and going to see it. And that's how that goes. So, yeah, it is what it is, man. So I wouldn't expect, Cannibal Corpse to get in there anytime soon.
I was going to ask if you thought Corpse would ever get in there, or if you're maybe like even like, again, I mentioned Pantera. Do you think Pantera would ever get inducted? I think Dimebag and Vinny most certainly belong in the Rock and Roll Hall.
I absolutely. Again, these are bands and artists that kind of formed a different subgenre of rock, metal, whatever you want to call it. Same as Metallica, same as Slayer, all this stuff. I mean, the Sex Pistols, they became the golden people of punk rock. You have the Clash. Yes, absolutely. Pantera should be in there. They came out in like 88, 89.
Punk gets love from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for some reason, though. Isn't that weird? Punk gets lots of love, but metal still is the redheaded stepchild in the corner.
No, yeah, I agree. It's weird, man. I guess they felt when you put Black Sabbath, then okay, we did something. Who knows?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right. Don't forget to check out loadedradio.com for your hard rock and metal news updated live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week as well. The 24-hour radio station, which is there for you, just a click away. Don't forget to download the Loaded Radio app. It's completely free. Gives you access to the radio station, the podcast, and all the hard rock and metal news and tour info as it happens, and so much more. You can get all this info at loadedradio.com. All right. Thanks again going out to Blothar the Berserker from GWAR. The New Dark Ages drops on June 3rd on CD and digital, and on September 16th on vinyl and cassette. On behalf of Johnny Rude and everybody else at Loaded Radio and loadedradio.com, we'll talk to you again next week right here on an all-new edition of the Loaded Radio podcast.
Loaded Radio.